Then in time, maybe a few months later, the big day of the year came. Prabhupada would come to Detroit Temple actually once a year. And I moved in just a couple of months before Prabhupada actually came. And I thought maybe I would get initiated. I'd only been there like 4, maybe 5 months at the most. And I went to the temple president, please, can I have initiation? And devotees were getting initiated easily in those days after even days or weeks. But our temple president was very strict. He said, 1 year, then you can take initiation. I said, oh. And Prabhupada arrived at the airport, in Detroit Airport, and I remember there were many senior devotees there, and Prabhupada arrived, and I think this particular arrival is in the Prabhupada Leavamrita. Prabhupada's arrival in Detroit was either 70 or 71, I can't remember. The unique thing I remember about that arrival was that everyone was crying. There must have been 300 devotees in different parts of the Midwest and East Coast that were there. And, Prabhupada just drew out this bhakti, this love for his lotus feet and for the process of Krishna consciousness, even at that very beginning stage of Krishna consciousness, very early. It was so wonderful. So I remember as Prabhupada came up down the gangway and he came into our vision, I was looking through my camera because there were very, very few pictures of Srila Prabhupada. There were but few pictures of Prabhupada. In those days, I remember my first impression was that through the camera, wow, he looks just like he does in the pictures. Click. And everyone started falling down and crying, and the Prabhupada came and he patted devotees on the head, he embraced senior devotees, he sat down, and I remember one thing from that lecture, and I've met other devotees who were present at that lecture as well. Ravinda Swarup Prabhu was there, and we were just discussing out at Govardhan Hill. He was staying out there for Kartik as I was, and we were talking about our remembrances of Prabhupada. He remembers the same line. My dear godbrother Bhakti Bringa Govinda Maharaj, one day we were talking, and he said, I was there too. You know what Prabhupada said? I said, that's the same thing I remember. Prabhupada was speaking. He was speaking to all us young boys and girls, and he leaned over and he said, please believe me when I say you are not these bodies. And somehow when Prabhupada said that, it just penetrated into my heart. I started looking at my body for the first time. Yeah, I'm not this body. When you hear these words, when you hear these realizations from the lips of a pure devotee, it has a tremendously powerful effect. That's why Prabhupada said this chanting of Hare Krishna, especially this should be heard from the lips of pure devotees, has a very transcendentally powerful effect. And that's very nice. I was thinking as I was out at the hospital today, and the tape of Prabhupada was going on and on. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. I was thinking this is very nice. We have so many tapes and music tapes, but I always have confidence in the leadership when I go someplace and I hear Prabhupada bhajans being played, because that sound vibration is so potent, so transcendently potent to destroy the sinful reactions within our heart, uproot our material desires, and give us a taste of higher Krishna consciousness. So, Prabhupada said, please believe me when I say you are not this body. Yes, not these bodies. So Prabhupada came to the temple and he went upstairs for a quick change, and he came downstairs, and there was one little boy who was standing next to Prabhupada's Vyasa-san. The kirtan was going. That boy was maybe 2 years old. Mothers, they can just start to hold the kartals. I'm only guessing. About 2 years old, and he was playing like this. The kirtan's raging. And Prabhupada walks by. Little boy, his name was Vaishnav Das, and Prabhupada looks. Ooh. And he patted that little boy on the head, and the mother, she went, my little ray of Vishnu, yes. And then Prabhupada sat down, and instead of singing, he just began speaking about how a devotee who leaves Krishna consciousness because of his material desires and goes away from the process of Krishna consciousness, gives up the process and goes back to material life to fulfill his material desires. When he leaves his body, he goes to the heavenly planets. And there he can fulfill his material desires, at the same time get purified, and from there transfer himself back to Godhead. That can take a very long time, though, because as you know, the demigods, they live many thousands of years. But he said, but a devotee who's strict but who does not finish the course of Krishna consciousness within his lifetime. He's very strict, but he dies having not yet attained the exalted stage of prema bhakti. That devotee, he said, takes birth immediately in the family of devotees. Therefore, he said, these children, he said, are all very, very special. So he said, treat them properly and raise them to be nice Vaishnavas, he was saying. So all the mothers, of course, they have their babies there. And these so I remembered that. And as long as I've been a devotee, I've remembered that. And I'm always inclined towards the children in Krishna consciousness, seeing them as actually devotees who in a previous lifetime had not deviated from the process, but had just died untimely, so to speak, untimely, had not yet finished the course of Krishna consciousness, but with the good birth in this life in Krishna consciousness, have every chance of going back home, back to Godhead. So Prabhupada stayed for a few days and gave us his association. Then he was leaving, and I was thinking, well, I didn't get initiated, I didn't get a personal darshan with Prabhupada, but I want to show Prabhupada how appreciative I was that he came to our temple. So as he was going to his car, I quickly scribbled a note. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my most humble obeisances. Thank you so much for coming to Detroit. I'm going to miss you so much, and I'm going to feel so much separation from you. Please accept this $10 for your newly created book fund. Your servant, Bhakti Brian. So I probably was just getting in his car when I ran downstairs and put that $10 in the envelope. And I was getting in, the devotees were all around, and I said, Srila Prabhupada, wait! And like everybody froze. And Prabhupada turned around with a big, amazing look on his face, and I got all, what did I do? And I walked up to Prabhupada, I got very close, and I said very softly, I said, Srila Prabhupada, this is for you. And looked him in the eyes and he said, Hare Krishna, thank you. And that was one of the best days of my whole life. That, a spiritual master, if he appreciates your service, then your life is perfect. Actually, that's all devotees want. In the material world, no matter what you do, you can become prime minister, you can become president, you can become, the richest man in the world, but you don't get the same satisfaction if your spiritual master says to you, thank you very much for that devotional service, because you can know if you've pleased your spiritual master, then Krishna is pleased with you. And if Krishna is pleased with you, your life is perfect. So I experienced it. It was just a short exchange. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. But it meant everything in the world to me. Everything in the world. So about 10 days later, a letter arrived in the mail. Now in those days, when a letter came from Prabhupada, it wasn't just the property of the devotee to whom Prabhupada was writing. It was considered that was temple property. So what happened is that devotee who was that letter was to, he got that letter and we blew a conch. In the middle of the day, that meant a letter from Prabhupada arrived. Whatever we were doing, just like the gopis, they gave up everything and just ran to see Krishna in the forest. So, we just gave up whatever we were doing. We just dropped and we ran down to the living room of the temple. And we all sat down. That devotee read the letter. So, we all, Prabhupada, the letter from Prabhupada, the letter from Prabhupada. It came down, everybody sitting there. I was thinking, maybe the temple president will get it. And then, it was like transcendental, roll call in the military or something. They picked up and they said, Prabhupada is writing Bhakti Brian. And at first it didn't register, Everyone looked at me. Wow, me? Me? Prabhupada wrote me a letter? I was thinking, my first thought was, Prabhupada knows I exist? Oh, me? So the hands were shaking, like, what if Prabhupada's going to chastise me or something, How am I going to read in front of everybody? My guru's chastised me. Okay. My dear Bhakti Brian. Oh, he called me dear. Please accept my blessings. I want to thank you so much for the letter which you gave me as I was leaving the Detroit temple. I also want to thank you very much for the $10 which you have very graciously given for my newly created book fund. I have information from the authorities in the temple that you are doing very well in your first months of Krishna consciousness. So please continue. And my instruction to you is always follow in the footsteps of advanced devotees, and surely in a very short time you will become Krishna conscious, and I will be very happy to accept you as my duly initiated disciple, your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki!
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,